When you get home and the enemy comes and tries to affect what God's done in your life, you can't tell him, yeah, but I jumped up and down. But you can tell him, it is written. When Jesus got in a fight with the enemy at the temptation in the wilderness, he didn't fight with emotion and he didn't fight with experience. He didn't say, I'm anointed and you can't mess with me. He didn't say, I've never sinned. That's what I would have said. Joker, you better talk to somebody else. I have never sinned. I'm in the end of a 40-day fast. I will whip your butt. I'm a sinless, spotless man. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me because He's anointed. I'll whoop you right now. That's Alabama vernacular. Some of y'all don't know nothing about whoop, do you? But He didn't. He said, it is written. Turn these stones into bread. It is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. And he takes him up and he tries to get him, you know the story. You throw yourself off the pinnacle of the temple. And then the enemy tries to throw in some word, but he misquotes it when he tries to throw it in. It is written, bear thee up lest at any time you dash your foot against a stone. He said, yeah, but it is written, thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. Then he takes him up to an exceeding high mountain, shows him the kingdoms of this world and their glory. He says, bow down and worship me, and I'll give you. He says, it is written, worship the Lord thy God only, and him only shalt thou serve. And what he's doing is he's showing us a precedent that it is not your anointing that intimidates the enemy. It's the word. Heaven and earth may pass away, but the word of the Lord will stand forever. You'll have no anointing in heaven. The whole purpose of the anointing is to destroy the yoke, and there won't be any yokes in heaven, so there'll be no need for you to have any anointing. So you begin to understand that what affects the enemy is something that is from the realm of the eternal, and the word is eternal. The Bible, listen, will still be true and still be effective and still be quick and still be powerful when there is no more planet. Because it is not of time, it is something from eternity that was released into time. That's why you've got to understand that you're not just a person, you're a word. That the very makeup of who you are is seed. And seed is word. And so you begin to understand, that's why Jason Upton's saying every word sent down from heaven does not come back until it's succeeded. And so you begin to understand that the reason why you are fought is not just because of your purpose and your call and the goals you've set. It's because you are a word. And what the devil hates about you first and foremost is you are indestructible in that you have a revelation of the assignment that you are. Not the assignment that you are intended to accomplish, but the assignment that you are. That your life is an assignment. And I want to talk to you tonight as we get ready to close this gathering, this particular gathering out, about how to get this to go home with you. If I did not believe, and Casey touched on this when he shared this afternoon, if I did not believe that this could be transferred to your home, I would tell everybody to move here. If the hope for America is what's happening here, we're in trouble. If it's 1,000 people a couple of times a month and 500 or 600 people that have moved here from different places to be a part of what we're doing, if that's the hope for America, we're in a dangerous, dangerous situation. But we got a prophetic word that revival would come through this place. And the revelation that heaven gave us concerning that word is that did not mean that there would be a season of revival in the building. It means that you would be the revival that would come through this place. And listen, unlike a local church, we crave a revolving door. We pray you go out with more force than you came in. And I pray that something so awesome is happening in your church in a month that it makes this look like no big deal to you. See, if we equip you right, we can make ourselves irrelevant. And we might be coming to your gathering. That'd be good with me. I'll sit on the floor. So I want to talk to you about this being transferable, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about impartation, and then I'm going to minister some things about how I believe we're to sustain this. And we're going to do it out of Luke 19. We're going to talk about Zacchaeus for a minute. some things the Lord's been showing me about the old and the new wineskin. I'm going to teach on it a little bit tonight, and then those of you that are part of our local community that'll be here tomorrow night, you'll probably get phase 2 of old wineskin and new wineskin if that's where we end up going. Luke chapter 19. And you know, I just want to thank you for being such an awesome group. I want to thank you for being willing to come sit on the floor. I want to thank you for being willing to walk through the snow and being willing to park across the street and having sorry restaurants to eat at and sorry hotels to sleep in, and you don't even care. A Walmart that closes at midnight, how pathetic is that? A Walmart that closes at midnight. And you've just endured, and you've just been faithful, and then you've responded. I mean, how many altar calls, seriously, have we had? 5? 5 at least, and some private ones you had on your own that weren't or authorized. Probably some in your hotel room last night, maybe this afternoon. And you just responded and responded and responded. I want to tell you, stay in that. I just want to, if I could sow one thought into you, I would say stay pliable, stay broken, never get so big and never learn so much about this that you hear a message and think it's for somebody else. Every message I ever hear is for me. When the word is preached, I get selfish so fast it'd make your head spin. I've answered my own altar call, put the microphone down and went and got in the... I might do it tonight. You don't ever know. Luke 19, beginning in verse 1. We're going to pull Zacchaeus down off the flannel graph of the Sunday school classroom and make him more than the story of a wee little man, and a wee little man was he. Are there any church kids in here that know about flannel graphs in Sunday school? My God, I'm old. I'll break some gospel bill off in here in a minute. Y'all then know something for sure. That Nicodemus is a bad cat, let's be honest. Luke 19, verse 1. Then Jesus entered and passed through Jericho. Jesus entered and passed through Jericho. Now behold, there was a man named Zacchaeus, who was a chief tax collector, and he was rich. And he sought to see who Jesus was, but could not because of the crowd, for he was of short stature. So he ran ahead and climbed. Say climbed. Say climbed. Up into a sycamore tree to see him, for he was going to pass that way. And when Jesus came to the place, he looked up and saw him and said to him, Zacchaeus, make haste and come down, for today I must stay at your house. For today I must stay at your house. So he made haste and came down and received him joyfully. But when they saw it, they all complained, saying, he has gone to be a guest with a man who is a sinner. Verse 8, then Zacchaeus stood and said to the Lord, look, Lord, I give half of my goods to the poor. And if I have taken anything from anyone by false accusation, I restore fourfold. And Jesus said to him, today salvation has come to this house, because he also is a son of Abraham, for the Son of Man has come to seek and to save that which was lost. If I was ever going to God ever got so mad at a group of people that he called me to be their pastor, I would take that verse right there and I would put it over the door of the building. For the Son of Man has come to seek and to save that which was lost. He identifies his purpose in a sentence. I'm going to heal the sick, but that's not what the Son of Man came for. I'm going to raise the dead, but that's not what the Son of Man came for. I'm going to turn water into wine, but that's not what the Son of Man came for. The Son of Man came, listen, to save the lost. But there's another part in there. To seek and to save that which was lost. And I'm going to talk to you briefly about how important it is that your next step is that you become a seeker. Watch this now. Why is it important for you to become a seeker? I've never understood the concept of looking for God. Seek the Lord with all your heart. Seek me while I may be found. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. All these things will be added unto you. What, like, are you lost? You're God, reveal yourself. Why do I need to seek you? But see, there's something in the seeking that fascinates God. And the thing about seeking that fascinates God is that he's a seeker. For the Son of Man has come to seek. As fascinating as it is, and as much of a challenge to my thinking as it is that I would have to look for anything. It's far more challenging to think that God would have to look for anything. But the Bible said the eyes of the Lord roam both to and fro about the earth, seeking those he may show himself strong through. Isn't that what he said? He tells the woman at the well, your people worship on this mountain, my people worship my people worship on this mountain, your people worship they know not what. But the hour cometh, and that hour is now, that they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. The Father seeketh such as to worship him. So we understand then that it's clear in the Bible that we're supposed to seek God, and it's clear in the Bible that God is seeking something. The reason why God is looking for a seeker is because God is a seeker, and the only thing God is really fascinated with seeing is his own image. The reason God created a man and put him in the garden in the first place is because he wanted to look at something that looked like himself. That's why he said we created man in our image. We wanted image bearers. God is so fascinated with his own image that he created people to operate in his image because he likes to look at things that look like him. And the enemy comes and tries to rob you of that image. Because if the enemy can rob you of the image, then he can rob God of the joy that God finds in finding things that look like him. God does not want you to give because God needs money. God will not actually physically hold anything you gave in any of these offerings. God doesn't have a light bill. He is light. He says, let there be light. Light runs out of his mouth at 186,000 miles a second. He does not have a light issue. God doesn't need gold. He doesn't care about how much it's trading per ounce. He doesn't care about the NASDAQ, the S&P 500, or the Dow Jones. He paves streets with gold and builds gates out of pearls. The reason why God wants you to give is because God is a giver, and when you start giving, you start looking like God, and God gets to enjoy the restoration of the forfeited image. Adam came in the image, forfeited the image. Jesus came as the second Adam to restore the image. What God is wanting is people who walk around the planet and do what he does. And he seeks and he saves that which is lost. And when we begin to seek and to save that which is lost, we begin to bear the image, and God begins to get excited over the fact that his dominion is being restored in the earth. That's why Jesus did not come preaching the gospel of the church. He came preaching the gospel of the kingdom. Because what Jesus wanted to do is Jesus wanted to introduce people to an ideology that said, I can expand the borders of God's dominion by bearing his image. I have dominion anywhere I can express image. That's why, hallelujah. I think about some of this stuff, and you can go really far down this road, but the reason why we send ambassadors to other countries, I'm talking about countries that we could flick off the map. Why do we have an ambassador in Ecuador? Seriously. We could send 3 people to Ecuador and wipe the whole nation out. We got surface-to-air missiles. They got spears. But the reason why we send an ambassador there is because when we put somebody on the ground that represents our kingdom, then we begin to expand the borders of our kingdom by having a representative of that dominion. That's why you can't stay here. You've got to go home. You've got to go home because you are the image bearer when you return home, and the image bearer can get back the forfeited dominion. So you got to not go home looking the way you look and acting the way you acted and talking the way you used to talk. You've got to go home bearing a new image so that when people look at you, they say, man, what in the world happened to you? You don't even look the same as you used to look. Your countenance has changed. There's something about you. There's something about your posture. The weight of sin does not have you burdened over in depression anymore. You've been set free. The Son of Man has come to seek and to save that which was lost. You are living on this planet to seek and to save that which is lost. I want you to understand that. If God only built you to have deep personal communion with him, he would take you straight to heaven. Because boy, are you going to have some deep personal communion with God when you get to heaven. The reason God left you here is because he wanted your deep personal communion to manifest itself in an image that would restore the forfeited dominion that Adam lost when he fell into sin in the garden. And I want to show you this because I think it's valuable for you to enlist when you leave here on the seeker's journey. You seek him. That's what you do when you get home. You seek him. Sometimes when you're seeking, you're not finding, you're just seeking. And we're real good if we're finding, but we're not real good if we're seeking. But you begin to understand that there's something of personal development that happens in the seeking that does not happen in the finding. And the longer you walk with God, you start to get as thankful for the seeking as you are for the finding. Because there was stuff happening to me when I was seeking that would not have happened with me if I was finding. And I'm not just in love with finding, I'm in love with seeking. Because I recognize that there's something of His nature that is being developed in me as I seek Him. The moon is significant only in that she has no ability to produce light, but to reflect the light of the sun in an hour in which the sun cannot be seen because the sun is not properly aligned with the earth. So why is the moon significant? The moon brings forth light. The moon doesn't bring forth light. The moon reflects light because it has proper relationship to the sun. The earth can't see the sun, so the moon aligns itself with the sun so it can become a reflection of the sun, and the earth can see the light of the sun because of the position of the moon. You are not the light, but you are the reflection of the light. You are the moon. Hallelujah. Song of Solomon said you are fair as the moon. And so you set yourself to stare at the sun until you become the reflection of the light, and all of a sudden the earth begins to see the light, not because you are all that, but because you are aligned with the light. And I want to show you in this story of Zacchaeus that Jesus is passing through a city called Jericho. We have already learned about Jericho by now that it's under a curse. When the walls of Jericho fell down, Joshua prophesied, "Cursed be the man that rebuilds Jericho, for he will bury his firstborn at his foundation, and his oldest he will bury when he sets up his gates." Later on, under the government of Ahab, a man by the name of Hillel of Bethel rebuilds the city of Jericho and buries his firstborn when he lays its foundation and buries his oldest when he sets up its gates. Now Zacchaeus is trying to meet Jesus, but is living in a cursed place. One of the things I like about the story is Jesus is willing to come to the place even though the place is cursed. He heals a man from Bethsaida, even though he said Bethsaida, it had been better for Sodom and Gomorrah in the days of judgment than it would for Bethsaida Chorazin. So he comes, oh, I love the Bible. And so he comes into the middle of the curse, and he's not intimidated by the curse because he recognizes greater is He that is in me than he that is in the world. And their best way to deal with the curse is trumpet with a blessing. If America really is under a curse concerning abortion, the best way for me to deal with that is not political policy. It's to raise up a people that outburn the wickedness. And so he comes into Jericho, and the verse 2 says, "Now behold, there was a man named Zacchaeus who was a chief tax collector." The Bible is very clear. I could give you about 4 different references of how clear the Bible is that that tax collectors were not good people. The Bible says that even tax collectors were justified being baptized in the baptism of John. God's like, the baptism of John was so powerful that it even helped tax collectors. Think about that. Whenever somebody wicked was needing to be described in Scripture, they would use the example of a tax collector. These jokers were wicked. Not only they robbed from the people, they took from the people, they stole from the people. They represented enough of Rome to be considered Roman, yet they represented enough of Israel to be considered Jewish. They were two-faced. They were hypocritical. They had an hypocrites, and the hypocrites, the word, is a theatrical term for one in drama who wears more than one mask. And they were good enough with Rome that they could collect taxes for Rome, and they were good enough with Israel that they could collect taxes for Israel. But mostly they were able to put money in their own pockets because they were robbing from the people. Sounds like some preachers I know, but I don't have time to preach about that. Y'all have to come back on a later date. So he's in a cursed place. He's in an accursed position. And not only is he a tax collector, the Bible says he's a chief tax collector. Then it goes on to say he's rich. Scholars would say that tax collectors received a salary, and the only way that they would become rich is through thievery. And later on, the text bears it out by Zacchaeus saying, "If I've taken anything from anyone a way that I should not have, I'll restore it fourfold." The dude was so rich he could give away half of everything he had and still restore fourfold to everybody he'd stolen from. He was loaded, and the next thing says he's rich. Jesus says it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of God. He's in a cursed place. He's a tax collector. He's a chief tax collector, and he's rich. In a minute, we find out he's short. In a cursed place, a chief tax collector who's rich. Look at verse 3. Come on, we're just learning. And he sought to see who Jesus was. That's interesting because in a minute, Jesus is going to say, "I came to seek and to save that which was lost." So who was seeking who? If you draw nigh to me, I'll draw nigh to you. If you're not finding him, it's not because he's not looking. It's because your looking has not invoked his eyes. See, if you start seeking, then your seeking creates a response from heaven, in that heaven has to respond and start looking back at you. If you would fix your gaze on Him, He would fix His gaze on you. If you feel like God's ignoring you, maybe it's because you're ignoring Him. He sought to see who Jesus was, but could not because of the crowd, for He was of short stature, in a cursed place, a chief tax collector. He's rich from robbing from people, and now he's short and there's a big crowd. The deck is stacked against this cat. What do you do when everything around you says that what you really want is not possible? We had dreams of awakening. We had dreams that thousands of people were going to get touched by God. We had dreams that God was going to awaken a generation. That seemed like the most improbable thing you could ever imagine. 10 years ago, when God began to move in young people, youth ministry was the driest arena you could be in the church. Youth were the deadest group of people in the building. Do you remember that? Do any youth pastors remember being in youth ministry 10 years ago? And you're like, if we're not bowling or eating pizza, nobody's interested. Then all of a sudden a worship revolution began to come. Then all of a sudden God began to build things that were extreme and extraordinary and out of the box, and it began to touch young people. But I'm telling you, your situation when you return home may seem improbable at best and probably impossible. He's in a cursed place. He's a chief tax collector. He's rich, listen, and he's short, and there's a big crowd. And not only is he short in a big crowd, but he's a big crowd full of people that hate his guts because he's a chief tax collector and he probably stole from them. So you got a crowd that you can't get through because don't nobody like you. What are you going to do? Most people turn and go home. He could have turned and went home and said, you know what, I'm too wicked. He's probably not interested in seeing me anyway, all of the bad things I've done. He probably went and said, you know what, he could have said, I could have been like the rich young ruler. I got so much money, it doesn't matter anyway. I'll just go home and enjoy my money. I don't need this Jesus. But something on the inside of him said, everything I have is hollow if I don't have Him. Nothing that I have is of any significance or eternal value if I do not have Him. If I get Him, I get everything. And I'm going to see who He is. History teaches that there would have been no less than 12,000 priests of the Levitical order that lived in and around the city of Jericho. There were temples to worship in. There would have been synagogues for him to go into. There would have been priests of Levitical order that had been members of the Sanhedrin. There would have been Pharisees and there would have been Sadducees. But Zacchaeus was not there that day to have an encounter with religion. He was there to have an encounter with Jesus. And people that have had an encounter with religion will never understand people that have had an encounter with Jesus. Don't even go home and try to explain what happened to you to people that have only had an encounter with religion. People that want to go to church for an hour and 45 minutes are not going to get you. They're not going to understand your passion. They're not going to understand your zeal. Don't try to explain why you dance. Oh, just find one more person that'll dance and hook up with them. It doesn't matter whether they're like you. Find one weird old lady with blue hair on the back row that shows up an hour early to pray and dance with her. Don't waste your life trying to explain to people that said yes to religion what it feels like to say yes to Jesus. That is two completely different things. Why do you act the way you... What do you mean, why do we act the way we act? Have you seen Jesus? Why do you give your money? For real? You for real don't understand why we give our money. He gave His life, His blood. He gave up a seat in heaven to come wrap Himself in flesh and let the people He created beat the hell out of Him, and you wonder why we tithe? I wonder if you've lost your mind by not giving. 10%? No way we don't give 10% at our house. Your mama. Give no 10%. You know what I'm done talking to people about offerings. You ain't saved. I don't like it when they talk about money. You ain't saved. Because if somebody can give money, you wouldn't have carpet to sit on. You wouldn't have a building to be meeting in. There wouldn't be any lights. There wouldn't be any heat, and there wouldn't be a microphone. And you better realize God put you on the planet to help what happened to you happen to somebody else. And anybody can do this, but real faith does this. Better pick that up. I saw some people get excited about that. I don't want Brian Beasley to pick it up. I know he'll keep it. He's got dreams of stadiums and give me my money back. I don't understand. I don't understand why the service has to go so long. For real? You can't wait to get home? Is that what you want to do? You gonna tell me that you have the living God on the inside of you and you are more interested in football on Sunday than you are Jesus on the Sabbath day? You've lost your mind. And I'm not going to waste my life trying to explain it to you. I'm just going to pray it happens to you. Because if what happened to me happens to you, you'll get crazy too. I don't believe in dancing. Really? If Ed McMahon, he's dead, I know, I didn't mean to. If Ed McMahon's predecessor knocked on your door and handed you a check for the Publishing Clearinghouse sweepstakes for $180 million. Huh? Have you ever seen anybody win the lottery and go, thank you? Hallelujah. And that's just money. We get heaven. Oh. We get we get freedom from every chain, every shackle, every sin. You ain't seen a party until you've seen somebody party over the Son of the living God. I feel like dancing right now just to let the devil know what's coming. Come on, you don't need any music. Take a praise break. Woo, Lord. This is how we do it. Come on. The people are going to look at you. You'll get home and start acting like that. People say, I don't know why you act like that. Yes, you. I act like this because I was going to hell. This don't have nothing to do with your church. It doesn't have nothing to do with your denomination. It doesn't have anything to do with your favorite preacher or your favorite worship team. This is about Jesus dying for my sins, and it's a big deal to me. Sit down. Might do that again in a minute. That felt so good. Woo. I felt Christian behind me. I felt that. I felt that anointing. Ooh, Lord. My God. I'm in a cursed place. I'm a sinner. I'm short. And don't none of these people like me. What to do, what to do, what to do. I think I'll just go home and say, this ain't fair. I thought it was going to be easy. I came to the ramp and God touched me and I thought I was going to go home and live on a glory cloud for the rest of my life, and I'd see cherubims and diapers playing harps, and just that's how we're going to live. I thought my teeth were going to turn gold and gold glitter was going to fall out of the sky and land on my head. I'm going to start laying hands on people out in the parking lot, and people just falling out in the power of God. I didn't know I was going to have to get up and pray. I didn't know I was going to have to do practical things. I didn't know there was going to be effort involved. I didn't know some days it wasn't going to be easy. Zacchaeus said, I got a decision to make. Either I can use all of these things around me that are trying to prevent me from getting to Jesus as an excuse not to get to Jesus, or I can come up with a plan. And you know what his plan was? He ran ahead. If people are keeping me from seeing Him, the best thing I can do is pass the people. You know what people hate? Getting passed. Oh, don't drive with me. I own the passing lane. Rubbing is racing. I have a 390-pound bumper on the front of my truck, a 250-pound bumper on the back of my truck, just made for helping you understand. Scooch. Get off your phone and get out of my passing lane. These blinking lights mean scoot over, genius. It's okay if I just work my own confession out up here in front of everybody. My wife's here saying, please get it over with. For real, man, I love Texas. Anybody here from Texas? You know why I love Texas? Because a cowboy will pull over on the shoulder and let you pass them. Oh, that's glorious. And then wave at you on the way by. I'm just going to be over here on the shoulder of the road. This is not actually road. But I'm running 90 and I'm going to pull over here and people hate being passed. They just hate being passed. But nowhere do people hate being passed more than in church. Because they want to believe that their position communicates that they are at the forefront. And when you get home and start out worshiping people that have been in the church for 20 years, some of them ain't going to like it. When you get home and there's more people coming to your Wednesday night youth meeting than there are coming to the Wednesday night adult service, some people are not going to like it. But you got to make up your mind. Do you want to see Jesus or do you want to keep the crowd happy? I found out the best thing you can do is don't get attached to people, because at some point you may have to pass them. My goal is not to outrun you. My goal is to see Him. But if you moving so slow is keeping me from seeing Him, then I'd rather say goodbye to you than miss out on seeing Him. That's why your relationships are more important than you can fathom. Be not unequally yoked with unbelievers. How many of you know that verse? That means Assemblies of God people marry Assemblies of God people, and Church of God people marry Church of God people. White people marry white people. That's not what that means. Be not unequally yoked does not mean find somebody that goes to the same type church as you and find somebody with the same ethnicity as you and find somebody whose parents believe the same thing your parents believe. That's not what being unequally yoked. Being yoked has to do with pace. The oxen don't have to be the same color to be equally yoked. They have to be moving at the same speed. They don't have to be of the same breed. They just have to move at the same speed. Come on, somebody. They don't have to have had the same background. They just have to be moving at the same speed. So the only way you can get equally yoked is to run as fast as you possibly can. And when you hit your top speed, you look over there and see who's running next to you and marry her, because that's what it means to be equally yoked. And you ain't never going to get hooked up right till you speed up. I don't even need to know what you believe. I just need to know if you can keep up. I married a Baptist girl, and she can keep up. Oh, hallelujah. And she's hot. I mean, that's important too. Let's don't get carried away. Hallelujah. He ran ahead. He started passing people. See, God doesn't grade on a curve. And you're not doing good because you're doing the same as the people around you. And that's why people really are drawn to dead churches. Because it makes them feel good about their own dysfunction, that at least I'm doing better than these people. They like being a big fish in a little pond. So they gravitate toward dysfunction, because that dysfunction is a sense of comfort concerning my own situation. God's looking for people who say, you know what, I want to see you so bad that I'll start running. There's some interesting things that I want to show you about this as I get ready to transition this. He ran ahead, and the people already don't like him. And here's a man who's rich, who has position. He's a chief tax collector. He's a wealthy man. Everybody knows who he is. And for a minute, he gets so obsessed with seeing Jesus that he forgets about his position of prestige and starts running like a little kid. Unless you come as a child, you cannot even enter into the kingdom of heaven. And all of a sudden, he takes off running. Because some of you are not going to make it if you go home concerned about your reputation. You'll never serve God right being consumed with the opinions of people. You'll only serve God right when you get consumed with the opinion of God. Hear that, friend. One of the best things that could happen to you in this last service is get delivered from the opinion of people. And don't go home and worship like you're being watched. Go home and worship like you're being watched. Go home and worship like you have an audience of one. Go home and praise like you've got an audience of one. And people, he start, can you hear him talking? Oh, God, Zacchaeus, like he's interested in you, Zacchaeus. You're passing it. Zacchaeus. Look, Jesus is not interested in you. Go to the back. You're 14. Jesus is not interested in you. You got purple hair. Jesus is not interested in you. You got a bad past. Jesus is not interested in you. Come on. Come on, you've had all this sexual issues. You got pregnant in high school. Jesus is not interested in you. You've been divorced. Jesus is not interested in you. Go back, go to the back. And he just kept on running. He just kept on running. Best thing you can do with the opinions of people is outrun them. Don't argue with them. Don't debate with them. Don't try to plead your case. Just outrun them. He kept running. He kept running. He kept running. There's an interesting thing about the glory of God when we look at the Old Covenant. Under the Old Covenant, one day Moses is having a conversation with God. That's crazy. He's having this conversation with God, and what he says is, God, I want to see your glory. And God said, Moses, you can't see my glory. If I show you my glory, it will kill you. He said, but I tell you what I will do, because I like you, Moses. The children of Israel knew God's acts, but Moses knew his ways. I like you, Moses, and so what I'm going to do is there's this cleft in this rock. And I'm going to put you in the cleft of the rock, and I'm going to let the backside of my glory pass you by. Here's the problem with running with the crowd. All you'll ever see is the back of God. And if you go home and you try to fit back in with the crowd that God's trying to draw you out of, all you'll ever see is the backside of God. Under the Old Covenant, all man was qualified to see is the backside of God. But under the New Covenant, oh, hallelujah. Behold, we look into a glass and we see dimly, but the day comes when we see him face to face. And so we understand that Zacchaeus was operating in that time of dimensional interruption between Old Covenant and New Covenant, where Jesus was making the image of God visible to humanity by living inside of flesh. That's good stuff. And so Zacchaeus has a decision to make. Am I going to be content to do the old way of running with the crowd and looking at the back of God? Or am I going to be willing to pass other people and put myself in position to see his face? It's not enough for you to go to church and occasionally once a year we have a good revival and we experience the backside of God's glory passing by the cleft of our rock. You have got to live face to face. You have got to live where you are ahead of the crowd and you are ahead of the system and you are ahead of the old ways of doing things so that you can see who he really is. Now, I want you to get this. I want you to get this, and I want to be clear about this because I'm going to teach you some things about this that I think are valuable. If Zacchaeus didn't pass the people, the only image he would have ever gotten of Jesus is what everybody else had already seen. But he said, eye has not seen, ear has not heard, neither hath entered the heart of man the things that God has prepared for them that love him. God wants to show you something about himself. Listen, not only that you've never seen, your generation is going to see things that nobody's ever seen. We're not just going back to Pentecost. We're going to see the glory of the latter house become greater than the glory of the former house. We're not just going to go back and recover the forfeited things of old. We are going to see the former rain and the latter rain poured out all together in 1 month. The reaper is going to overtake the sower, and we're going to reap that on which we bestowed no labor. We're going to see book of Revelation stuff. My God. We're going to see revelation and manifestation and impartation and power released from on high. You're going to, I prophesy, see creative miracles. This is going to move the church into the greatest dispensation of the supernatural. 2011 is the transition year into the gate of signs and wonders. And we are going to, in about the next 4 to 6 years, see the greatest manifestation of creative miracles that has been seen in the history of the planet. Arms are going to grow where there's been no arms. Hallelujah. Eyeballs are going to come where there's been no eyeballs. The dead are going to be raised. College campuses are going to get turned upside down with the spirit of a third great awakening. And this is no time for you to be looking at the back of God from the back of the crowd. Start running. If you got to run by yourself, run. If they make fun of you, run. If they mock you, run. If they ridicule you, run. If your girlfriend breaks up with you, run. If your mama and daddy say you joined a cult, run. If your church says you've crossed the line, run, 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 run. Because if there's something new available, I'm not living in something old. If there's a face-to-face available, I'm not going to stand in the back of the crowd and stare at the back of God. I want the face-to-face, man. Oh, I want His burning eyes. Oh, I want to bury my head in feet that taste of brass. And the temptation is that you would go back to an old system when there's a new opportunity. If you go back home and go back and do what you used to do, you will be in the same funky shape you were in before you had this encounter. Do not go home and go back to the crowd. I got to teach this, man. I saw this so strong today. Don't go back home and try to fit in. Just handle this whole issue of needing to be cool right now and decide you'd rather be consecrated than cool. Decide I'd rather be sanctified than celebrated. God, have mercy. I'd rather God call me mighty and them call me a religious fanatic than the other way around. Hear this, friend. Hear this. Hear what I'm telling you. Don't you go home and go back to the crowd. Brother, we got to go in there and we got to get them saved. You don't go in there and get them saved. You pass them. The best way for you to get them saved is not go get with them. The best way for you to get them saved is to get so clear of the dysfunction that they are dealing with that when they really get ready to look for a way out, they're going to look to the one they made fun of. Look, people don't like me, and people think I'm over the top, and people think I'm too extreme until they get sick. Huh? There are parents that look at the rant. I don't like the rant, but when their kids get on drugs, they'll be the first people to walk in the door of the place and need God to intervene on their behalf. Because listen, there's going to come a day where they're going to want something real, and you cannot afford to represent something fake. If you go back home and you go to the crowd, then all you're ever going to see about God is what you've always seen about God and what they've always seen about God, and that's not what you were born for. First thing he does is he accelerates. He forgets about reputation. He forgets about position. He forgets about people's opinions, and he takes off running. I pray when you get home, you hit the ground running. Run. Huh? Paul said, run with patience the race that is set before you. He said, I have run the race. I have finished my course. All men run the race, but only one receives the prize. Run with a heart to attain the prize. Oh, that I may apprehend the thing for which I was apprehended. Paul is calling this thing a race. Don't run it with the pack. Set the pace. Run to win. Be a runner. The next thing that Zacchaeus has to do, the Bible says he ran ahead, and the next thing he does is he climbs into a sycamore tree as if he's not looking childish enough. Next thing he does is starts climbing trees. Why? Because if I don't get any higher than I am, what was an issue in the past is going to become an issue again. I don't need to be bigger, I just need to be higher. This is the issue. Everybody wants to be big, nobody wants to be high. Huh? And so if the people were keeping you from seeing him before, they're going to keep you from seeing him again. Unless, now that you've run your race, you start living in an exalted position. See, the way you make sure that what was an impediment to your progress in the past does not become an impediment to your progress in the future is you learn to live higher. I mean, takes off running. And everybody's got to be talking about it. Then when he gets ahead and he gets himself in position to see Jesus, he realizes my problem in the past is going to be my problem in the future if I continue to live at this level. That's a word from heaven. If you go back home and you try to make what happened to you this weekend an accessory on your pathetic past existence, you'll end up in the same condition. That's an encouraging word, isn't it? If you go back and you start texting her again, it won't last. If you go back home and you start living on Facebook again, and you start doing what you were doing again, and you start watching what you used to watch, and you listen to what you used to listen to, and you hang with who you used to hang with, I don't want to be religious. No, you don't want to be real. I'm so flippin' tired of hearing people tell me you don't want to get too religious. I want to get so full of the Holy Ghost that nobody wants anything to do with me until they get in trouble and need a lifeline. If I can fit in, something's wrong. If I blend in, something is wrong. If you go back home and you fall back into your Jesus is not your accessory. You don't get to say, oh, this is wonderful. I can go back to my regular life, and now I've got Jesus. Isn't that cool? Put him in your pocket and pull him out when you get to church. Oh, that's what most people do. It breaks my heart that people have radical encounters with God, and then they go back and try to make that radical encounter fit in their normal existence. You have just lost the right to be normal. When you came to this altar, you surrendered every privilege of normalcy that you have ever had, and you enlisted in the most far out, radical, extreme group of people that have ever lived in the history of the world. He starts climbing a tree. How's this going? He's climbing up. He just ran. He's climbing up into the top of a sycamore tree. He climbs up into the top of the sycamore tree because there are two things you got to do when you get home. You got to accelerate and you got to ascend. Acceleration and ascension are keys to your position. Jesus said, no man can take a new patch and sew it onto an old garment. Because the new patch, when it goes through the process of shrinking, will actually tear the old garment. If you try to take the new patch you just got and go home and mingle it with the fabric of your old life, you're going to tear it up. No man can take new wine and pour it into old wineskins. Listen, if he does, the fermentation process will cause the breaking of the skin and will end in the spilling of the wine. What is he trying to say? If I'm doing something new in you, you better go home and put it in something new. If God poured something into you in the last 24 hours, you better go home and make sure that you don't try to fit it into your old skin. I'm going to talk now. Scholars say that the skin would have primarily been made of a goat. They would actually take the skin of the goat, they would cut the legs of the goat, they would skin it, they would stretch it, they would fill it full of the wine, and the fermentation process would keep the skin supple. But over a period of time, if you don't go kill another goat, I'm going to talk now. If you don't go kill another goat, then what you experienced through your sacrifice in the past will not be sufficient to hold the wine that God has designed for you in the future. You got to stay in the goat killing business. You know what the goat represented? The goat represented something that was really not a sheep. The goat, oh hallelujah. The goat was somebody who could not pay the price to sacrifice a sheep. They could then sacrifice a goat. And when the Bible is bringing distinction between the people of God and people who are not the God, it brings the people who are not of God, it brings the distinction of a goat and a lamb. And you got to keep killing your goat nature if you're going to keep your wine. Oh hallelujah. And when that goat starts to rise up in you that almost looks like a sheep and almost acts like a sheep, but it's just not quite a sheep, you got to kill it and say, you know what? I'm going to put my new wine right in this new sacrifice because I'm not born to be a goat. I'm born to be a sheep. Some of you are so excited because you got a new patch. And you're going to go home and you're going to say, how can I make this work with this old coat? Let me put this new patch on this old coat. It won't work. Listen, and if you still want your old coat, it hasn't happened to you yet. Huh? And if you don't want to kill the hypocritical, half-committed goat nature in you, it hadn't happened to you yet. Because if you kill the goat, you've got something perfect for holding the wine. And if you will discard the garment, he'll give you a garment of praise for a spirit of heaviness. Oh, hallelujah. He's got a garment for you. He's got a mantle. He's got a mantle for you. If you'll let him, he'll robe you in something tonight that when you get home, miracles will happen at the end of your hands. If you'll let him put something on you, you'll go home and start a prayer movement that will spread through your campus like wildfire, and God will end up causing thousands of people to be born again. But it is not going to work if you try to put the patch on your old self. I want to keep my girlfriend. That hadn't happened to you yet. I want to serve Jesus, but I want to keep my old lifestyle. It hadn't happened to you yet. If you can't wait to go home and get on Facebook, I wonder what happened to you. I've got a friend up in Minnesota that said one day when we stand before God, this is what he said. He said, can you remember it? One day when we stand before God, Facebook and Twitter will be proof that you did have time to pray. If you spent half as much time praying as you did texting every day, you'd turn the world upside down. If you'd put your stupid video games down and get your Bible out, you could turn the world. Don't tell me you're too busy. Jesus is better than soccer. He's better than volleyball. He's better than your trombone and your band and your football you think is so important. It hadn't happened to you yet. I'm not against Twitter. I think it's kind of stupid, but I'm not against it. I'm not against football. This right here, all county. Hallelujah to the glory of God. All county football player family moved in here for the ramp. Moved in here because of the ramp, and the high school inherited a kicker that helped be a part of leading them to play for the state championship this year. I'm not against sports. I hope you use Facebook as a tool to bring people to Jesus. But if you're going to go home and fall back into the same rut, the same mindsets, the same culture, the same relationships, letting your life be consumed with TV and computers and iPhones, then you are not really the generation that's going to bring about a third great awakening. But I believe you're different. I believe you're a running, tree climbing, do not give a crap what anybody thinks about you kind of generation. And when you get home, you're going to run right past religion and climb right into the realm of the heavens. See, under the old system, whenever God wanted to meet with man, God had to come down and meet with man. Remember, under the old system, if God wanted to deal with man, he shows on the backside of his glory. But the new system comes and Zacchaeus gets to see face to face. You got to understand that we are between an old and new system for you. My point tonight is that you are in a dispensation between the old and the new. You're not fully in the new and you're not fully out of the old. You're in decision time. Am I going to live in the old or am I going to live in the new? You've spent years in the old. You've spent 29 hours in the new. Huh? And you got a decision to make. Am I in the old or am I in the new? Under the old covenant, whenever God got ready to deal with man, God came down to the earth and dealt with man. When he wanted to interact with man, God came down to the earth and dealt with man. Under the new covenant, God never comes and deals with man. Nowhere in the book of Revelation does Jesus descend to talk to John. Whenever God in Revelation wants to talk to John, he tells John, come up here. I know we sing, send it on down, send it on down, send it on down. God's looking for somebody that can climb. Who shall ascend into the hill of the Lord but he that has clean hands and a pure heart? God is looking for somebody that has set their attention upon heaven and are willing to live a life of climbing. Under the old covenant, when God got ready to deal with man, God came and dealt with man. Under the new covenant, whenever God wanted to deal with man, God invited man to come up. I believe God's asking you this weekend on this final sermon to do two things. Come out and come up. Come out from among them and be ye separate. Be ye holy. as I am holy, says the Lord. And I believe God's saying, come up here and I will show you what must take place after this. John said, I looked and there before me was a door standing open. And I looked through the door, and there was a throne, and there was one seated upon the throne that had the appearance of jasper and carnelian and a sardius stone and an emerald rainbow encompassed round about him. And seated around his throne were 24 other thrones with 24 elders who never stopped casting down their crowns, crying, holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty. There's a door standing open for somebody that will give up the low living of their old life and begin to live in the elevated place of the heavens. I know a man, whether in the body or in the spirit, I know not of, but he was caught up into the third heaven and saw things there that were unlawful for him to speak of. Come on. Don't you go back home and live down there. I'm scared I'm going to lose my friends. You got one so much better than them. The day I graduated from high school, I got so mad at the man that did the speech, whatever you call that. And he gets up and he talks to us, and this is what he says. He says, these people that you're graduating with tonight, you'll graduate tonight, you'll never see most of them getting your life. I was like, you're crazy. That's my boys. Huh? We've won ball games together. We played together. Traded girlfriends back and forth. We're boys. Huh? Bros before hoes. We dropped them all like crazy. Huh? Y'all don't know nothing about that. Huh? Y'all don't know nothing about that. Huh? State championships. We got this. We threw our hats in the air, and I never saw these cats again. And I realized something later. I spent all of my life trying to get them to like me, and I don't ever even see them again. You spend your whole life trying to fit in with a group of people that you won't even have any relationship with by the time you get out of high school. I know y'all in love. You ain't gonna marry him. He can't spell his last name. He's dumb as a box of rocks. I know he can throw a ball a long way, but get a revelation. You're going to be hanging out at the ballpark watching him play softball, drinking beer. He's going to weigh 315 pounds, talking about how good he was when he was in high school. And you're going to be over there tomorrow, whoa, good hit, honey. Let's go back to the trailer park and raise the kids. I'm telling you, outrun all that garbage. Maybe God will make you a missionary and give you a husband that burns for other nations of the world. My God. Maybe God will give you a healing anointing and give you a wife that when she sings the song of the Lord, she electrifies heaven and causes the kingdom to come. Maybe God will give you a partner that when you join hands and pray, all of heaven listens, and lightning and thunder and miracles and wonder. Stand up. Whoa! I feel the Holy Ghost right now all over my legs. Oh, am I telling the truth? Oh, woo! I came to tell you you're not going back to normal. I came to tell you you're not going back to the crowd. And I came to tell you better listen to me, that you are not going back to low living. You're going higher and higher and higher and if somebody will hear it tonight, I prophesy to you this is as low as you'll ever be. I prophesy to you that this is as slow as you will ever move in your life. Hallelujah. Some of you are about to hit a speed you never knew imaginable. Some of you, God's going to use you to do more by the time you're 20 than He used people that went before you to use in their entire lifetime. Some of you are going to do more for God in high school than most preachers have done for God in their entire ministry. You're not here to walk, you're here to run. You're not here to blend in, you're here to stand out. I feel the Holy Ghost.